Hi all, in this lab, let us understand how to integrate REST API with Kinesis data streams. Okay, so Kinesis is used for many real-time applications and real-time event processing. Okay, now for example, let us get started with the architectures. So we have created one REST API called Kinesis Integration API with a type regional endpoint. Now this will have one resource called streams and there is a name of the stream and the record. So that means we are passing the stream name as the input to the request, and we are using the put method, okay, which integrates with the backend, which is the Kinesis data stream. So API gateway directly integrates with the Kinesis data stream by calling the respective action on the Kinesis service. Now, as soon as the data comes to the Kinesis data stream, a Lambda is invoked. Okay, so Lambda is automatically triggered to consume the data from the Kinesis data stream. Okay, now how does it work? So when the client sends an input JSON object, for example, data object and a partition key and also a stream name, now this request goes to the API gateway, and here we also configure a model. So the model will configure a schema which validates whether the input object is conforming to this particular model. So if it is not, the request will be rejected. Okay, this is just to ensure that only the valid requests are going to the backend. Okay, so it's always a good practice to do the validation in the API gateway instead of doing it in the backend. Okay, now once the validation is successful, then the integration request will go to the backend, and once the processing is happening at the backend, then the response will come back to the clients. Okay, now here the response is the sequence number, because a data record is written to the data stream and the sequence number is available, as a result of the action writing to the record to the Kinesis data stream, right? So this is how we can see an end-to-end integration between the API gateway and Kinesis data stream, and also followed by Lambda to consume those records. Okay. Now let us go to the source code and see how to implement this architecture in Terraform. Okay. Hi all, in this lab, let us understand how to integrate API gateway REST API with Kinesis streams. Okay, so most of the times in the stream processing applications, you may wanted to integrate Kinesis data streams with API gateway, and you wanted some computing layer, like for example Lambda, to retrieve the streams from the Kinesis and then take the further action. Okay, now let's go to the source code and see how to implement these architectures. Okay. Now here we have a API gateway definition. The name of the API is Kinesis Integration API. It's subtype regional. The specification is coming from the API openapi.yaml file. So let us look at the YAML file definition. So here we are creating one path /stream/stream name and record. Okay, and it's a put method. So we are updating the stream by creating a record there. The parameter that we have to provide is the stream name, okay, and the body, that is the input JSON object. And so the input JSON object has to match according to this model. Okay, so that means the data type, whatever the data structure that we pass, the JSON object has to match a specific schema that is defined here. Okay, so that's what it is. If it's not matching, then the request will be rejected. Similarly, we have one HTTP response 200, and the integration also we have configured. So this is where we configured an IAM role to call the corresponding AWS service, and also the type of the action is basically put record for Kinesis. Okay, and this is where we are talking about the stream name, the data, and the partition key, so which are required for updating the Kinesis with a new key, new record basically. Okay. Now, in the component section, this is where we are defining a put record method request payload, and this is where we are saying which is required, which is the important field out of this. Okay, and it also talk about the type of the data, string. Most of them are string. Okay, so now let us go ahead and deploy this. So before that, let's also look at the other code that we have, which is the Kinesis stream. Okay, so Kinesis stream is basically a simple code. We're just providing the name of the stream to create. Okay, and the type of the stream mode is on demand. Okay, and the lambda function, which basically reads the records from the Kinesis stream. Okay, so it's a simple Node.js function. And if you wanted to look at the code, we can see that in this folder, Lab14. Okay, so this is the lambda get records function. So it's a simple Node.js function to print the incoming data. Okay, now let us go ahead and deploy this now. Okay, now that we have seen how it looks like, so DynamoDB um, is not here. So DynamoDB is not part of this. It was part of the another demo, but here the only file that is important is Kinesis lambda and the Kinesis stream. Okay. Now let's go ahead and deploy this. I've done that again, but let me just run it once again just to ensure that any changes will be reflected. Okay, so apply Terraform apply completed. Now let's go to the console and see how it looks like. So this is where we define the Kinesis integration API, and this is a stream name parameter, put record. Okay, and the integration type, let's go there. Here the application type, the input data is to match to this model. Okay, this model is defined here. So if you go back to the model section, so this is where you define the model. So that means what the required field should be data, partition key, and here the type of the fields are basically string and additional field properties. So this will not allow any new field to be entered as a part of the JSON object. Okay, so this is how it is configured. Now if I go to the integration request, you see the AWS integration, and if you go to the edit, you will see it is the um, basically a Kinesis integration. Okay, the mapping template we can see the data required, for example the stream name, and this is a partition key, and this is a data. So this is required to configure the to call the Kinesis basically. Now in the put response we can see a default configuration of 200, then the method response also 200. Okay, now let us go to the Kinesis. So this is simple data stream, and which is what is configured for the API gateway. So apart from this, we also have a lambda which gets triggered. So here the trigger for the lambda is Kinesis. So whenever the data is written to Kinesis data streams, so Kinesis will automatically trigger the lambda. Okay, so that way lambda can get the event data. The lambda does not have to poll or call any APIs. Automatically lambda will be triggered based upon the events from the Kinesis data stream. Okay, now let's go ahead and test this. Okay, let us take some sample event and test it. And here we have to provide the stream name. Okay, the stream name is this. So let me copy that. So this is stream name. So here I'm just updating this simple JSON object here. So stream name I have mentioned. Now if I do a test, now I see HTTP response 200. That means it's working fine. So this is shard ID. This is a sequence number. So this is where we are updating the data. Now these are the execution log. Okay, and this is the stream name and the partition key that we are sending it, and we are sending it back to the backend, which is Kinesis. Now from there, if you look at the lambda function, should have been triggered now because we are update the data in the Kinesis stream. Automatically Kinesis should trigger this. So if I go to the logs for the lambda function, we should see that an entry should be available here. So this is where you can see that lambda receives this event. Okay, so this is how we can kind of test the integration between the API gateway and the Kinesis and the lambda also. Okay. Now, for example, we can do one more test. So in case, so we can do one more test. So what we can do is we can provide some extra parameter to the request body and check if it works. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm providing the stream name as Kinesis data, Kinesis stream API gateway, and here I'm putting one additional property. So let us test it. Now it is saying 400. The reason is invalid request body, object instance properties which are not allowed by the schema. So the schema, if you look at the models, so here it does not allow any new field. Okay, for example, you can click here and see. So additional properties is false. So it does not allow any more fields than what is required. Okay, so that is how we can basically test. Okay. So validation is also very important because instead of doing it in the compute layer like Lambda, instead of calling your backend with wrong inputs, you can do those checks, pre-validate those checks in the beginning itself using the API gateway functionality and to reduce the cost and the latency. Okay, so we can do one more test also. We can send some wrong inputs. So here I'm just sending, for example, data is equal to 3, partition key is 1. Okay, and I'll select I'll copy the name of the data stream and I'll just put the stream name here. Now if I just test this, it also returns 400 because object is missing required properties data object. So that means it's not the proper JSON file, JSON object. Okay, because we have created these type size to be string and but we are sending it integer. So like that we can validate using the request validator. So far what we have done is basically we have configured API gateway with a Kinesis data stream, and the Kinesis data stream is invoking the Lambda every time there is a event coming into the Lambda. Okay, so this is how you can connect all these servers, all these applications in a serverless fashion. Okay.